This full moon in Virgo is all about releasing expectations about what we thought our life or a certain part of our life was going to look like. It's about diving or perhaps descending into the darkness and divine chaos as we reorder and reshuffle life and areas of our life that need our attention most. So let's get ready to embrace this full moon, let go and surrender to what's coming up next for us. Hey everyone, it's Christine. Welcome back to my channel and to this video on the full moon in Virgo happening on February 24th at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For reference, New York City time at 5 degrees and 22 minutes of Virgo. I almost said October. Something too that came up I wanted to mention is a lot of times when things are out of order, when things are out of our control, when we feel like there's nothing else to do but just throw our hands up and say, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this. I surrender. That's when things start forming back into place. Like Tetris, you know how those little blocks, those different colored blocks fall into place? Slowly with ease, with a knowing. So if anything right now is happening in your life or several happenings where you're like, shit's not going right, I'm not sure what's happening, or things may be going right, but you may be wondering what's next, what's happening, or feeling it. Because again, this lunation, it's not going to impact everyone in a very linear, it fits everyone in one way type of energy. It'll be very different to everyone. It's unique, especially with how your natal chart relates to the transits here, to this overall lunation, and also how you're affected by energies, etc. Everyone has their own soul journey, so it varies dramatically. Some people will feel this more. You may be feeling a lot more tired, restless, agitated, nerves, or something that, or you're feeling something that's about to happen or change, and others may be trying to weed their way out of darkness. It's going to vary. So I just wanted to say that sometimes when we can't control what's happening outside of us, the only thing we can control is our mindset. Just as I said that, the AC turned on. And where I'm at right now, the weather is hotter than usual. It's a little much hotter, even though we're in winter season. So I've been called to read this book again by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And it really denotes a lot of choices that we have in life, and it reflects back to us these choices and how we can pursue the avenues that are in front of us, how we can deal with obstacles, essentially what our response will be when shit may be happening, or even good things. We always have a way to respond. It's much easier, if you've noticed, to respond to happy, celebratory, amazing blessings that are happening in your life, right, than it is to obstacles and challenges. And I wanted to preface this and open this video with this a little bit more, because there's so many things that are just moving in a topsy-turvy way, almost like putting all your laundry, color clothes and white clothes together and mixing them up in the washing machine. And not everything is going to bleed, right? But it's that type of energy where a lot of things are happening simultaneously. So many things can be going in a way you didn't anticipate in your life, and so many things could be. And some of you are waiting. So a lot of this is activating our own consciousness, our own mind, our own heart, to think and look at the things that are happening around us in a different way, in a higher way. Again, when I say higher, think of Nintendo or a video game where you complete one world or one level and then you move on to the next. It doesn't mean you're better or worse off than anyone. It just is another gradation in your journey. So expect a mix of emotions. If any of you are, and I assume most of you that are in tune with this video have been feeling a little bit more tired, exhausted, perhaps sleepy. I would say almost dreamy, almost as if your mind wants to take a break and not connected to your physical body. This is normal and what's happening. Okay, as usual, we are going to cover the astrology, the transits, and channeled messages. I'm changing things up. So if you've noticed a few tweaks, it's because tweaks have been made. please comment down below. I always welcome any feedback, what you'd like to see more of, less of, what is really of interest, what helps you. I am someone that's very holistic, as I've mentioned, and sometimes I aim to capture way more than is needed and I lose sight of things. And that's something that I'm aware of. So I'm always trying to bring it back to the main message here. Timestamps are always provided. They are in the description box below. So when you open the video, if there's a little button that says more, press it and you'll see it, all the timestamps there. I also link the chart to this full moon. Don't forget, you can adjust it to your local time. So you'll be able to see when this is going to impact you. And also too, with this particular link on AstroSeek, you can also take a look at your personal transits. For any of you that are interested and may not have astrological software, and see how this moon is directly impacting you. Because remember, keynote, disclaimer, any of the energies that I'm talking about, and in particular some of the transits, they refer to the collective energies. So they may impact you differently. Sometimes you may hear of a transit that's particularly difficult, challenging, whatnot, and you may not even feel it. You may have completely positive, or I should say more supportive, harmonic alignments in your own natal chart. Okie dokie. Let's get into the astrology. The overall energetic theme, I like to touch on this. And let's take a look at the archetype of Virgo. So for me, I consider myself a multidimensional, I'm sure many of you have heard this already, a multidimensional and multidisciplinary scholar. And when I say scholar, I'm not just talking about the books or school, just in life in general. The way I like to embrace knowledge and disseminate knowledge is encompassing a variety of different modalities, tools, and walks of experiences that I've had. And in astrology, it's very similar as well. We've got different branches of astrology, different belief systems, and it's amalgamated over time and has shifted. So I really resonate with the traditional, but also evolutionary, but I really love traditional Hellenistic astrology. So this is why I introduce the archetype, especially for those of you that are, Virgo sun, moon, risings, but with this lunation in particular. So key themes associated with Virgo include analytical, meticulousness, purity or youthfulness, rationality, judgment, harvest, anxiety, resourcefulness. That's a nod to Mercury there, its ruler. Magic, initiation, and descent. Symbolically, Virgo represents darkness because it precedes Libra. Libra, the air sign, initiates the fall season symbolically. So it doesn't matter if you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, but it initiates the descent into darkness. So we head into complete darkness with Libra. But the sign before Libra is Virgo, and Virgo initiates, perhaps completes and wraps up the last of the most amount of light that we have. So light is still present, but it's diminishing. And something that's interesting to know is the later degrees of Virgo, because Virgo and Gemini are both ruled by Mercury. So they're both double-bodied signs or mutable signs, as many modern folks refer to the sign as. And so there's a switching between light and dark here. And so as we get towards the Libra side, right, as we're getting closer to the degrees and the start of Libra season, Virgo starts shifting into darkness. So that's why you have that youthful quality about Virgo, but also that quality about, okay, we're preparing ourselves to head into this underworld, or Pluto, Hades, as it's referred to. Also remember, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, or Hermes in Greek mythology. And Hermes was the only god that was able to travel between Mount Olympus and the underworld. None of the other gods could get into the underworld. He was also one that could traverse throughout the earth, the material world, like some of the other gods did, because they would camouflage themselves, as animals and different mortals, etc. So Mercury was the psychopomp that led souls into the gate, into the entrance of Hades. And we had the dog, I forgot the dog's name in Greek mythology, who guarded Hades' palace or entrance. And Mercury would lead them down there. And thus the soul would begin their transit into their next journey of life, into the afterlife. That's the rebirth process, right? And so this is associated with Virgo as well. Like I mentioned before, with Virgo season preceding Libra season. And in this case, symbolically with this lunation, we may be entering a moment of darkness in our lives with this full moon, which is apt because we're releasing something. If you have been feeling confused about an area or areas of your life, especially where Virgo rules over, this is symbolic of this. So remember, themes around Mercury include doubt, trickster, cleverness, curiosity, playing around. Hermes like to joke around a lot and play tricks on the gods. And we'll see that notably present in Greek mythology. So a lot of the themes related to Mercury also apply to Gemini and in particular Virgo with this lunation. That's why I coined this video Divine Chaos, because there could be a lot of things that you may not understand that are happening right now in your material world. You may not fully grasp why things are changing, especially at the speed that they are, why certain things are being released or let go of. As if you release a handkerchief in the wind and it just flies away, or a balloon, perhaps, you see it float off. This is also allowing you to tune in more and get in touch more with your spirituality. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But there's a lot of duality here, a lot of emotional ups and downs. You may be feeling things on one end of the spectrum and then another. And it's really allowing us to be present with the full range of our humanity and who we are and what it encompasses, you know, as a soul living inside the body. Also, too, something that was really interesting to note that I learned was that Virgo embodies a fire-like essence that's similar to Mars during its light half, or during the light it represents. And as it heads into darkness again during the latter part of its season, it starts to purify and transmute. So remember, with this full moon, with this lunation in Virgo, we may be entering and bringing with us this period of, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's happening. I'm feeling heavy, or I'm about to release something big. And then you're going to feel that as you process through it and go through it, almost like akin to walking through a door. Feel that lift off. There's a levity here that I felt. So there's a cleansing here that's happening, whether it's within your own soul, your energetic sphere, or outside of you in your external reality, because Virgo is an earth sign, it's a feminine sign. So there could also be, to me, I'm just getting the duality of emotions too, but embedded within your environment. I also want to say that this lunation can also bring about notes of self-criticism or being nitpicky or analyzing things in such a profound way, not in a case, you know, where we hold compassion or self-compassion for ourselves. I think that was redundant what I said, but I think you know what I mean. But in a way where we're harshly criticizing ourselves, because symbolically, as Virgo descends into the underworld, there's a point of almost saying, okay, what have I done? What do I need to cleanse and purify myself up before I go into this process of transformation, of transmutation? So be aware of anything that's coming up where you may be really acting harsh on yourself, beating yourself down, berating yourself, because we are our own worst critic. And this lunation is going to reflect to you brightly like a mirror. Areas where you may need to show yourself a little bit more love, compassion, and understanding. Because as we know, no one's perfect. Finally, just a final note, this lunation is really highlighting too, in Virgo, the archetype here is highlighting that in order to get to light, we have to enter darkness. And that's where the duality here is present. So we may see some discordance, disorganization, chaos, anything where you may not feel comfortable. And it's going to vary for everyone, because what someone deems celebratory and joyful, others may deem horrific. So it's going to be very different for everyone. But preceding this, you may feel that, you may be going through that, but you're going through that tunnel. Imagine the darkness, or imagine walking through a tunnel. You will see the light. You will get there. Virgo rules over the digestion or digestive system and the abdomen. I put belly here. So you may be feeling, again, like I noted earlier, some excitable energy, butterflies, nerves, anxiety, restlessness. I kept, for me, because my moon is in Virgo, I was feeling a lot of electrical sparks, and almost as if you had like electrical currents running through you. I've been feeling that for the past several days. You may also be feeling a greater feeling or a height of having to go to the bathroom, especially peeing. related to the digestive system, and also have sensitivities with food around or closer to this lunation. Okay, let's get into the transits. I'm going to link the weekly energy forecast for the week of February 19th through the 25th, somewhere up here, because a lot of the transits overlap with this lunation, since this lunation is part of this week. So I'm really doing my best not to be redundant. I compact, or put as much as I can and compact that weekly forecast into 30 minutes, so you get a good overview. I also talk a lot more about Mercury and Pisces in the video. We have the moon in Virgo opposing the sun in Pisces, which is what defines a full moon. But we also have it opposing Saturn in Pisces. And the image I got was not something I wanted to see, but I'll just say what I wrote: the feeling of a dirty diaper. So there's a lot of tensions here surrounding our emotions, our needs, our feelings, our wants, our hearts, our desires, in connection to how we want to express that through our souls, through our vitality. It could be through health, embodiment, the way we want to go about our life goals and ambitions. And also too, with Saturn here, there's a pressure here of cleaning up what is no longer part of this, or what we don't want to carry forward. And also a sense, perhaps an inertia, or I'm getting a red button. When you press an alarm, there's an urgency. That's the word I'm looking for with this lunation, where you may be feeling or getting signs that it's time to level up in some way. It's time to take greater responsibility, perhaps in the Virgo area of your life, and to start adulting in this way. Because Saturn wants us to grow here in some way, but there's also limitations. So something that you may have done or that you may have connected to may no longer exist. And that may simply be the growth of your own soul. Your journey has expanded and you're moving on. And so as a result, something new is coming in, which is natural. Think about any areas in your life where you're feeling stuck, stagnant, repressed, or like you haven't seen movement in the way that you want, particularly in the Virgo area of your life. If it's helpful, please let me know. For rising signs, I'm happy to include, the house and wheels of life if it's pertinent to you. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in the Virgo area of your life. It could be something else entirely. So you will know automatically, because this is something that the universe is asking you, okay, well, time to do things differently here, time to clean it up. We're moving on because we're about to transmute this. When something goes through fire, it turns into ashes, but there's a purifying effect to that as well. Because the ashes, again, energy doesn't die. So the ashes will go down into the earth and be recycled. With the moon opposing Saturn, you may also be feeling a weighty heaviness, literally on your shoulders, on your energetic body, I should say, like a burden of sorts. And I feel like this has to do with realizing that something has to change and that there's a greater responsibility that's needed, not just for your own emotional well-being, but also from outside of you, or what's outside of you, and what it is that you intend to pursue in your life, and where you want to put your energy toward, because the soul represents our life expression, our vitality. The moon and Saturn configuration could also represent or have something to do with females or older figures, like older adults. There could be some type of conflict or some type of need to break away from something that existed and that you once identified in, but that is no longer true for you. So with this alignment with moon opposing Mercury, we're really being prompted to sit with this and all the feels, because we're tapping into how we're feeling in terms of our heart, and also our desires and what it is that we desire and want in life, but also what we don't, and how we're feeling that in our bodies, because our feelings don't exist separate from that. They work together. So naturally, when we're sad, we feel it in our body. Same thing when you're happy. Something too here with the Piscean energies coming forth with Saturn, Sun, and Mercury in this particular case, is we're being asked to surrender, to wait, and to receive, because as we go into this darkness with this lunation, we will be receiving messages as we get closer to the light. A lot of times there's that point of discomfort. You could call it, again, like a liminal space or a void, especially with full moons, where there's some uncertainty, some lack of clarity. or something that we want an answer to. It doesn't have to be bad or a huge, big challenge. It could just be, okay, I need clarity on, do I go in this way or do I not go in this way, right? But we may not receive it in the way that we anticipated. A lot of these energies, especially with the watery, emotional, sensitive Piscean energies, are asking us, okay, it's time to retreat and fall back and be open and waiting to receive, because those messages are on their way. Remember, both Virgo and Pisces are mutable, double-bodied signs. So they carry a light, dark message or meaning because they transition. As we are heading into Pisces, we are in Pisces season at the time of this filming. So we are heading towards the light now. We are completing the darkest point of this winter season. The darkness is still dominant, but the light is coming. So it's increasing. So there's an agility and ease here that's being welcomed, or that the universe wants us to welcome. Something that I got here is that the fact that there may not be certainty or clarity, or there's some type of confusion, discordance, or disorganization about a particular issue or area of your life, is also bringing up the key of trusting. And that's what faith, hope, and connection to something higher, to your higher self, to the universe, to God, to your ancestors, is really going to be a key in this particular in this lunation, but also in the particular set of alignments. We also have the moon in Virgo, trine Jupiter in Taurus. So this is about being practical and joyful, optimistic as well. There's a lot of energies too. You'll sense throughout these transits, there's a lot of dual energies of feeling perhaps down, weighted, perhaps depressed, unclear, like I've mentioned, and then getting a buoyancy, or feeling that buoyancy on the other end of the spectrum with optimism, hope. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So just remember, your feelings, your emotions during this lunation, preceding and after, may be going like a loop. I kept getting like an infinity symbol. Just keep going back and forth. You're normal, it's normal. So with this alignment, there could be resources, people, financial opportunities coming your way, especially with Taurus, with Jupiter and Taurus, in an area that you're wanting to rebuild or change. So there's an increase in safety and security that I'm sensing here. So remember, if something feels like it's not working out, you haven't seen the result in the way that you want, or there's some type of challenge, or even just a simple letting go or healing, know that things are coming that you may not be able to see or understand. There's a lot of spiritual connotation with this energy. We also have the Sun conjunct Mercury and the Sun conjunct Saturn. These are the Mercury and Saturn Kazimis, respectively. So they'll be exacting and getting closer to one another to a degree to form a Kazimi, which is usually, some astrologers denote less than 1 degree orb. And some say exact, but I usually give 0 to 1 degree, but it'll be exacting closer next week. So pay attention to next week's weekly energy forecast where I talk more about that. But these represent major resets because these planets are essentially resetting their synodic cycles with the sun. So there's a fresh start, excuse me, in the Mercury area of your life and the Saturn area, both in Pisces right now. And this is where we are going to be receiving a shit ton of downloads and psychic messages and knowings with the Piscean energy. So this is why this lunation is important. Lean into that full moon energy and don't pressure, press, force, resist, try, control anything. Because if you are not getting an answer that you want, or things are not working out, none of those are going to help you. It's actually going to make you more frustrated and challenged, or feel challenged. The point of this lunation is to lean back and trust. Imagine yourself laying in a pool of water that's comforting and warm, and you release. You know, when you release, you kind of just float or bobble up. There's a trust in knowing there that everything's going to work out. And this may be the hardest part, which is why I feel like this lunation, it's going to be key, important to connect to your spiritual team, to initiate or start that practice, because it's going to offer you a form of solace, but also a form of connection that you may not see, have, or feel in a tangible 3D way, but you may feel it otherwise through your other senses, through your clairs, through other psychic means. That's where you're going to find safety. in the unknown. That's why I labeled this video as such earlier. A lot of the safety we try to find in this ever-changing world, as a lot of, I'll just say, storylines are collapsing and shifting and accelerating. We are trying to find things in safety that exist outside of us, and those things could be changing, like the amount of money that we make, our jobs, the people in our lives, etc. But the things we can control are what's in here and our connection to the divine. Think of it like an umbilical cord. That's how I always see it. We all have that ability to connect. It's not for one special person. Everyone, I believe, has psychic ability. Some people just choose not to nurture them, and that's okay. But everyone has their connection to the divine. Everyone has that channel, that link, and that's where you are going to find that safety. Okie dokes. Sun, sextile Jupiter. Think of this as a little luck coming on your side. And again, there's energy here that's positive. So if you can have faith, almost folks that I keep getting lucky pennies, and I've been seeing a lot of coins, and I'm getting that song, Pennies from Heaven by, I forgot the singer, but it's an oldie song. If anyone remembers, comment down. But I keep seeing pennies. So if any of you have any favorite like articles or items or things that make you feel good, or you're like, this is my good luck charm, think of that energy with the Sun sextile Jupiter, because we may not, again, see it, but it's almost like being in front of a door and it's closed. And on the other side, there's amazing things, but no one knows what's behind the door. That's exactly what this lunation is prompting. We also have Venus conjunct Mars. And I talk about this in the weekly energy forecast. There's a lot of, I call it starburst energy here. And it goes, I should say, it exacts on the 22nd of February. So it'll be naturally separating as the days go by. But there's a lot of amplified creative energy, passion, zest, love, romance, sexual desires. Think of Venus representing the feminine energy, Mars the masculine energy. But Mars is also representative of our passions, our energies, our desires, lust. It could also be conflict, aggressiveness, assertion. While Venus rules over our pleasure, our self-worth, sensuality, romance and love, what we enjoy doing. So there's an energy, like a clash of waves here coming. So again, expect more messages, more intuitive hits to come to you. A lot of the elements with this Virgo full moon speak to trusting in what you don't see. So for those of you that are just starting out in your journey, for those of you that you're like, oh, I'm not really getting connection, there's an element of just trusting. If there's any way to initiate this or start this, I would simply recommend lighting a candle. And I like to hold candles, but again, it'll depend on the type of candle you have. But you can hold a candle like this, and you can set your intention. You can pray, you can speak. And everyone has different ways of doing that, but you're going to receive messages in unexpected ways, so stay tuned. We also have Venus and Mars, both in Aquarius, squaring Jupiter in Taurus. So there's an expansive energy here, and a lot of this, of what you may be calling in or wanting to see, has to do and is linked to fun, enjoyment, pleasure. Expansive energy, but in a very practical way, especially tied to security with the Taurian energy. Jupiter is very much about adventure, growth, expansion, optimism, hope, redemption. A higher level of spirituality too, because Jupiter is represented by Zeus, and Zeus was the leader, right, of the gods on Mount Olympus. With the Taurus energy here, though, what I'm feeling is, yeah, let's do things in a way that is going to bring us maybe more connection, more joy, more camaraderie, but that's also going to make us feel safe, have us feeling like our feet are still on the earth. So make time to do something joyful. And again, this all has to do with energies, and it can be difficult, especially if you're working through healing right now, if you are working on transforming your mindset, and you're simply just lifing. Welcome, earthlings. Humans, I should say. What are humans? Humanoids? There's a lot of different fluctuations that occur. So these energies, if you've noticed, there's a little bit of everything. but most importantly, there's a strong sense of like a binary or a dual lens in which we are going to be experiencing these fluctuations, these emotions, these feelings, these energies. So pay attention, because sometimes we feel like life is amazing today, and then something happens, and it's really easy and quick to say life sucks. Does life suck, or is it just that one particular challenge? And then asking yourself, well, how can I look at this differently? Something that you could tap into, especially with the Aquarian energy here, is to think back on what you liked doing as a child, and also think back on what you enjoyed when you had time off, or what you freely did when no one asked you to do that. Because as kids, many of us are curious, and we do things just to try them. And we tend to try things without saying, I'm not going to do it. Whereas as adults, we're like, no, we have more resistance. There's something here too, where you can combine that to the sensual or practical embodiment of what it is that you're engaging in, that's going to provide that security, especially in our bodies. We have no aspects to the North Node, South Node as a consequence, or Chiron, because Pisces is an aversion here to Aries and Virgo to Libra. So again, there's some things we are not fully understanding, and these energies suggest that we are releasing things in our life because it's time. It's like the doors opening periodically. You know, imagine we're on an airplane, and every full moon the door opens, and the captain's like, okay, we got to release what's no longer coming with us because it's weighing down the plane. This is similar to that. So certain things are being released. So we get closer to Aries energy, we are letting go of things that have expired, relationships, belief systems, goals, anything that's going, it's going. But we have the sun that's exalted in Aries, so we will be gaining light, practically and figuratively. So again, just remember, because things may seem hidden right now, they're hidden to our human senses, but they still exist around us. That's why the spiritual aspect and component is going to be very important. Okay, let's tap into the Sabian symbol, Virgo at 6 degrees. We got a merry-go-round. And this really exemplifies what I already discussed. So the symbol shows situations that keep returning to the same place without ever seeming to progress, like you're on a merry-go-round. Another word for those of you that may not be familiar is like a carousel. Those horses that you see at fairs or carnivals. Just when you think you see a way out, or off, you find yourself back where you were. However, you are, at least in some way, progressing each time you return. You have, excuse me, let me reread that again. However, you are, at least in some way, progressing, as each time you return, you have had the opportunity of looking around you and realizing and learning more and more about life and other possibilities. You must make a decision. Do you want to keep going round and round, or are you prepared to take a leap of faith and jump off the merry-go-round and start making some real progress? Other themes associated with the Sabian symbol, of where this lunation is occurring at: ever repeating cycles of activity, motion sickness, habits hard to break, getting on and then wanting off, getting off and then wanting back on, carnivals, lights, noise, music, repeating the same mistakes, bouncing from one thing to another and not progressing or getting anywhere, addictive behavior, returning to the same point. Takeaway: it's time to get off, wrap or end something and move on. I just read my notes. This is what I was going to say. So the main takeaway with the Sabian symbol that's been elucidated and streamed throughout this video is that change is coming, right? And there's certain things that have to be let go of. Something or someone or whatever is in your life that may be where you're putting a lot of attention or focus to, or that you simply need something to transform. There's something too for you to think about. How many iterations have I been through this with this person or with the situation or whatever it is? Because if you've been doing something ad nauseum, like in the same way, there's a ding, like a bell going off saying, okay, it's time to do things differently here because you're being rerouted, or perhaps routed to a new way of living. But you can't go there until you are ready to decide as a soul, because we have elements of free will here. Okay, let's get into the channeled messages. The one and only song that I got that kept playing over and over was Carly Simon, Coming Around Again. So there's something about going around. And then when I saw the Sabian symbol, remember, I always channel my messages first, and then I work backwards with this video. Then I look at the astrological transits, and then I look at the Sabian symbol. So what's interesting with this song, Carly Simon wrote the song in 1986 for the movie Heartburn, which featured Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep, two American actors. And in the movie, they get married later in life and have a baby, but then they start experiencing challenges with lifing and adulting in general, you know, putting all those variables together. And the song, when you hear it, it's about the highs and lows of marriage, the honeymoon or energy of union coming together, but also finding fulfillment in an ever-changing landscape. And here she speaks particularly of marriage. She wrote this song in Martha's Vineyard, and that was the place and also the home where she shared with her former husband, who's now her ex, fellow musician James Taylor, and their two kids. So for me, when I channeled the song, it wasn't about marriage. It was simply about realizing, is the fulfillment that you're seeking found in what it is that you have been trying to change, seek, transform, or you have been particularly stuck on for so long? Because when there's something that we are doing over and over, and we think or we believe, especially in our human minds, this is what makes me happy, this is what's important in my life, this is what I need. We don't see any other possibilities except that tunneled version, right? And the song brought to mind, and it's very connected to the Sabian symbol. It brought to mind, are you still wanting to continue down this path? Because again, imagine, like I mentioned earlier with Virgo descending, the symbolic energies of Virgo descending into the underworld. And we're doing that. Kind of like going in a roller coaster and you're dipping. Do you want to keep kind of experiencing the same loop in that area of your life or with a particular person over and over? Because if not, there's something here that's being made conscious to you, and you're going to feel it, and that's where the messages are coming through, especially with the Mercury Kazemi, with the sun. Here are an excerpt of the lyrics. I know nothing stays the same, but if you're willing to play the game, it's coming around again. So don't mind if I fall apart, there's more room in a broken heart. So life is generally about, again, dual messages here, about harmony, harmonization, balancing, appreciating what is, especially when it's good. And again, good is relative to everyone, but when something is especially meaningful to you, joyful, brings happiness, and you just feel completely fulfilled, those are moments to appreciate because they don't last forever. Because while we experience light or this feminine yin energy, it's also important to realize we're going to experience the darkness as well. And sometimes the darkness, many of us are hesitant to enter that. And I'm saying this all symbolically. Dark rooms too, that's another story. But many of us are hesitant to let go of that light because it's comfortable, because it's something we've maybe known or familiar, or we think this is the path that we're on. But if you're not feeling the fulfillment that you desire, no matter how many times you've tried or the efforts you've made, something is coming up for you and asking you, it's time to get off this. Because if you don't get off this, you more than likely risk going around in the same cycle again. I put a side note here. I felt a very strong, and this may be for a few people who's ever connected here, I felt a very strong romantic love relationship with this lunation. Even though I didn't get messages about this, and generally when we think of the Virgo full moon, romance doesn't come up unless you have Virgo in your 7th house, maybe 5th house as well, and for some 8th house. But so for any of you that are any type of romantic or love situation, relationship, or connection, and you're experiencing challenges or issues of not feeling fulfilled in the way that you want, there's something about rehauling this area of your life, because you can transform it, but two people have to be on the same page if that's the type of love you engage in, because I know there's polyamory as well. I sensed a lot of disappointment, but also there's a complete readiness to revamp this area. Because you know, when you just imagine playing one song over and over, maybe the first few times, maybe the first few hours, flashbacks to teenhood, you're like, yes, this is my favorite song, I love it, and you keep playing it. After a while, that song starts to get old. You start to get annoyed and tired of it, right? And in the same vein, some of you that have been on this cycle over and over may realize this isn't what you want anymore. It's time to go down and face any fears that have come up, anything that you're ready to let go. Because remember the Saturn alignment earlier? We are being asked to grow. So there may be a bump coming up or challenges as a result. Okay, first message that I got. Let go of how you thought your life would look like. And this was a strong theme that kept coming through that I mentioned earlier in the video too, because I saw a huge purple veil. It was thick. It was similar to the veils, or curtains, I should say, that you see in theatrical productions or movies. And you know, the curtain comes down when the show has ended. So there was something here signifying that an ending, closure, finale, something is done. And I feel like it has to do with a way of living, especially in the Virgo area of your life. So what in your life overall, or in this particular aspect, perhaps in the Virgo area, are you ready to completely let go of, end, or transform? And for everyone, you know, it's going to vary because this is going to impact people in very different ways. It could be a routine, a habit, a way of living, a system, relationships, an environment. You're going to know, but there's something here about rearranging or fixating on something that needs tweaking to meet certain expectations or ideals, because Virgo can have the ability to reach for perfection, but also to critique and to get things done, or want to get things done in a way that looks almost perfect. So if it doesn't fit here, there's something that's coming up about that. I also want to point out, letting go doesn't mean it won't happen. It simply means you may have to rework that particular ambition, goal, or relationship, change it or transform it in some way. And that's what I get a lot with this Virgo energy. It's a lot about doing things in a different way, but you can still be pursuing or still engaged in the same environment, relationship, or goal. Message number 2, look at the small stuff. Do any of you remember those books, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff? That came up and I started seeing pages moving quickly. And a lot of those books have little, I think each page was denoted to Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, you know, number 1. And they had different, we'll say, life wisdoms or different nuggets that offer you an ability to look at things differently and really take a look and realize that a lot of the obstacles and challenges we experience, it has a lot to do obviously with how we react to them and respond, but also in a matter of several years, they probably won't matter at all. So there's a rebalancing here and a refocus on paying attention to what truly matters, especially with your time and energy. This message was completely about the refinement of your life, refining that process, similar to when you are refining some type of system, maybe your organizational system, your calendar, the way you bake or meal plan, maybe your children's routines, your own routine in life, if you're a student, working or in retirement, whatever it is. Virgo is excellent with details, fine-tuning, zooming in. Think of Virgo having an extra little magnifying glass here with several of them so they can fine-tune everything. What isn't working in your life anymore, or in the Virgo area of your life that you want to change? And this could include with other people. What do you want to add in? Because it's time to assess here the minutiae of your life, any small pieces that connect and add to the larger pieces of your life that aren't working, because everything works in tandem. It doesn't work in isolation. So you may have a habit or routine that's not really benefiting you anymore. You may be involved with a group or in a relationship that no longer offers fulfillment in the way that you want, or growth. Sometimes too, we do things that we find ourselves repeating over and over. And I got an imagery of a hamster on a wheel. We just run. And again, I feel like this has to do with the status quo, with staying comfortable, with realizing this works for me. But again, this lunation and the energies in particular in this season of life, and they're going to get stronger, especially next year. They're asking us, it's time to revamp. It's time to shed, and it's time to move forward. So two things here, because this brings up duality with light, dark aspects of Virgo, but there's an element here of gratitude and appreciating what you have and fine-tuning what you can control and change. Sometimes when so many things are happening outside of you, or you may not understand on a more spiritual level why things are happening in your life in the way that you maybe don't want them to, or maybe they're happening in the way that you want, but you're not understanding certain things. We try to figure out through means of control, through finding out, why is this happening? What can I do about it? How can I change this? And many times we can't. We can only, again, it goes up to here, and Virgo's ruled by Mercury, so there's a strong emphasis here on our mind, our logic, the way that we perhaps critique, and I say this in a positive, constructive way, the way we could critique the things that we do and the way we live our lives. And that's the way we can use this mercurial energy to our advantage. Message number 3, healing differently. Pay attention to this earthy sign, because Virgo is an earthy, mutable, double-bodied, feminine sign. And pay attention to your everyday overall surroundings and what's around you, because when you heal, what I'm saying is obviously going to be very broad. So healing encompasses what you consume and who you're with. In other words, your environment and who you share that with. And something with this message is some of you are going to be opting for different modalities of healing, but also restructuring what's outside of you to help support that. It goes both ways. So I kept getting environment, people, consumption, lifestyle, habits. So if you're not making progress in the way that you want, especially in the Virgo area of your life, or you're not seeing it, especially when it comes to your healing and trying to move forward and feeling like you're stuck, look at it as a whole and zoom into the particular pieces of what's not working, because I kept seeing pulley systems, and I don't know the names for each of the intricacies, but I saw pulleys, like a huge system that you see maybe in physics with gears, the pulleys. I saw little bucket things and the mechanics moving. And that's how it works with this Virgo energy. Sometimes one change can provide relief, or some type of transformation that allows you to move forward. I also have here, there could be other avenues of healing that you're being called to pursue, especially attributed to Mercury. So I kept getting measurements, numbers, tracking, it could be weighing, finding ways to measure what it is you're doing, especially with healing, that will clearly elucidate things that you may not see or feel. For example, when someone asks you, have you healed? Most folks that I know don't have some type of spreadsheet that they track or keep track of their healing. Or they don't have biometric, measurements or details like that. Most of the time we gauge from maybe last year or this year. But some ways that I'm getting here, because it's not always easy to measure, and sometimes we feel like we're not making progress in life, but we are. We're progressing every day. It just is not always shown to us or apparent or obvious, because we live through a lot of these idiosyncrasies. So think about maybe triggers in a particular issue in your life, maybe in the Virgo area that you've struggled with, or maybe that you have been working hard on and you're excelling and you're making a lot of progress. When was the last time you were triggered? Because you can measure that as well. Maybe give yourself a scale, 1 to 5. 1 being less triggered, 5 being triggered completely. You're going to start to see patterns. And it connects to, in many ways, to mood trackers and other types of trackers that people use. So for any of you, and I kept getting healing, predominantly because Virgo is on that axis of healing, but more has to do with purity and transforming those energies. So don't discount any of those at the micro level, at the macro level, because sometimes you have to hone in a little bit and simply change your perspective. Similar to when you do a still life painting, I think that's what it's called. When there's an object, like a pear or even a person, and you're being asked to sketch them or paint them, you're going to get vastly different scenes depending on where you're sitting, right? Same vein with this. You guys, this is it for this lunation. There's a general cleanup energy, but it goes deeper than that. And it goes with understanding that this area in this time and season of your life, you may be feeling a whole mix of emotions. It's like a laundry bag where you have everything in this laundry bag or basket. And you're like, what? What's happening? And it's because a lot of this is really pushing us to put our faith, to put our hope into things that we may not always see around us, to put faith, hope, optimism into something higher beyond us, our spiritual rituals, practices, and teams, the divine, the connection, that umbilical cord I talked about, to the divine, to God, because those things will never leave us. We're always connected. Even sometimes we are feeling disconnected. They are always connected to us. And those are things that can provide safety. This lunation is also, I feel, prompting many folks to get reacquainted with their intuitive and psychic abilities and their gifts, to really sort through what fears are coming up. Because what's interesting, side note, or note aside, I've connected to a lot of folks, but many of them have been very fearful of their own psychic skills and mediumship skills and many other different skills, which essentially lend to perceiving things on an extrasensory level. This lunation, I feel, is going to prompt that and give you a different way of seeing things, but through a maybe more spiritual lens. It could be supernatural too, but I get spiritual completely. So connect to yourself, find one practice. If I could suggest anything for this lunation, is to find one grounding, earthly practice. It could be painting, artwork, put your foot in the sand or in dirt, take a bath, but something that calms you, something that's easy to do, that fits into your life, and that allows you to retain some sense of peace within yourself amidst what's going on. And even when you don't always know the whys, the hows, or you're not getting the answers that you want, because it's coming really soon, you all. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to check out my other lunar videos and the weekly energy forecast if you like to stay tuned. Comment down below, what intention do you have for this full moon in Virgo? I am wishing you a beautiful moon ahead. I'll see you soon. Take care.